Good evening, my friends. I want to start tonight with a simple truth, one that I have carried with me for a long, long time, and one that I hope you will carry out of this room and into the rest of your life. Here it is, everything has a price. Not just the things you buy at the store, not just the house, the car, the vacation. I'm talking about the things that really matter, your health, your relationships, your character, your future. All of it has a price tag on it. Nothing in this life is free. Nothing. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you can start making better decisions about which price you're willing to pay. Tonight I want to talk to you about two prices, two invoices that life will hand you, one way or another. The first is the price of success. The second is the price of regret. And here is what I have learned after all these years of watching people, studying people, and yes, being one of those people who has paid both prices at different times in my life. You will pay one of these two prices. There is no escaping it. The only question is which one. Let that settle in for a moment. You don't get to choose whether you pay a price. You only get to choose which price you pay. Success has a price. Regret has a price. And the tragedy, the great tragedy that I have watched unfold in thousands of lives, is that so many people trying to avoid the price of success end up paying a much higher price, the price of regret. And regret, my friends, is the most expensive purchase a human being can ever make. The nature of price, let's talk about what a price really is. A price is simply an exchange. You give up one thing to get another. That's all a price ever is. When you go to the market and you buy an apple, you exchange your money for that apple. Simple. But life's prices are rarely that simple, because most of the time you don't pay with money. You pay with something far more valuable as your time, your discipline, your comfort, your habits, and your daily choices. Success is not free. I want you to hear that clearly. Success does not fall out of the sky into your lap because you are a nice person, or because you wished for it hard enough, or because you deserve it. Success has to be purchased, and it is purchased in daily installments, small ones. Installments so small that most people don't even notice they're paying them, or not paying them. Here's the trap. The price of success is due today, but the rewards are often not paid out for months, sometimes years. Meanwhile, the price of regret works exactly the opposite way. The rewards of avoiding discipline, the extra hour of sleep, the skipped workout, the unread book, the unmade sales call, the harsh word you didn't have to apologize for because you just avoided the person altogether. Those rewards are immediate. You get to feel good right now. But the invoice for that, the invoice for regret, comes due later. And when it comes, my friends, it comes with interest. Heavy interest. Compounded, relentless interest that eats away at years of your one and only life. This is why so many people choose regret without even realizing that's what they're doing. They are not choosing regret on purpose. Nobody wakes up and says, "You know what I want? Regret." No. They are simply choosing comfort today, over and over and over again, without understanding that comfort today, chosen habitually, is regret being manufactured for tomorrow. The story of the two farmers. Let me tell you a story, the kind of story I have told for years, because it illustrates this truth so well. There were two farmers who owned land side by side. Same soil, same rainfall, same sun, same opportunity. In the spring, the first farmer got up early every single morning. He plowed his field, even when his back ached. He planted his seeds in careful, straight rows, even when it would have been easier to scatter them carelessly and be done with it. He pulled the weeds, even in the heat of summer, when every other man in the county was sitting in the shade. He watched over that field like it was the most important thing in his life, because in a very real sense, it was his future, standing there in rows of green. The second farmer looked at that same field in the spring and thought, "There's plenty of time." He enjoyed his mornings. He slept a little later. He told himself he'd get to the plowing next week. When the weeds came up, he told himself they weren't so bad yet. He'd deal with them later. When the sun got hot, he found reasons to stay indoors. He wasn't a bad man. He wasn't lazy in some dramatic, obvious way. He simply postponed the price. Every single day, he postponed the price. Now here is the part of the story that matters most dollars. For most of that spring and summer, you could not tell the difference between these two men by looking at their happiness. The first farmer was tired. His hands were blistered. He missed leisurely afternoons. He paid every day in sweat and discipline and sacrifice. The second farmer, meanwhile, looked like he was winning. He was rested. He was comfortable. He had his afternoons free. If you had shown up in June and asked, which farmer has the better life? A foolish observer might have pointed to the second man and said, him. Look how easy he has it. But then autumn came. The first farmer's field stood tall with a harvest so abundant he could barely bring it in fast enough. Row after row of grain, gold in the autumn light, the direct result of every single unglamorous, unrewarded, uncelebrated morning he had spent in that field back when nobody was watching and nothing seemed to be happening. The second farmer's field stood there too, thin, patchy, choked with weeds. A harvest so small it would barely feed his family through the winter, let alone give him anything to sell, anything to build on, anything to be proud of. And here's the cruel and beautiful truth about this story, the truth I want you to take home tonight. The second farmer paid a price too. He was not spared. Nobody is ever spared. He paid the price of regret, the price of watching his neighbor's abundance while sitting in his own scarcity, the price of knowing, deep down, that the outcome was entirely of his own making. He paid with a harder winter. He paid with the ache of watching what could have been. He paid with the quiet, gnawing knowledge that the results he was living with were not bad luck. They were unpaid bills, come due. The seeds don't care about your excuses. The field doesn't negotiate. Nature doesn't send you a warning notice. It simply, patiently, mathematically returns to you exactly what you planted. And life, my friends, works exactly the same way. Discipline's weight is measured in ounces. Regret's weight is measured in tons. I want to give you a phrase I've used for years, because once you understand it, you will never think about your daily choices the same way again. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Think about that. Getting up early to exercise, that's an ounce of discomfort. Staying up a little later to finish the project the right way instead of the fast way, an ounce. Having the hard conversation instead of avoiding it, an ounce. Saving the money instead of spending it, an ounce. Reading instead of scrolling, an ounce. These are small weights. Annoying, sometimes. Uncomfortable, often. But small, manageable, bearable. Now think about the other side of the scale. The pain of being 50 years old and out of shape, watching your body fail you when you need it most. That's not an ounce, that's a ton. The pain of looking at your bank account at 60 and realizing you have nothing set aside, that you'll be dependent on others or working when you should be resting, a ton. The pain of a relationship that quietly died because you never had the hard conversations you kept avoiding, a ton. The pain of looking back at 10, 20, 30 years and realizing you had every opportunity to build the life you wanted, and instead you built a life of convenient excuses. That, my friends, is the heaviest ton of all. Here is the deal life offers every single one of us, without exception and grues. You get to choose your pain, but you do not get to choose whether you experience pain. You are either going to discipline yourself, or you are going to be disciplined by consequence. Nobody escapes both. The wise pay small amounts often. The foolish avoid small payments and end up owing everything all at once, usually at the worst possible time, with interest they can barely afford. Success is not an event. It is a process. And every process has a toll booth. I want to clear up a misunderstanding that I think ruins more lives than almost anything else. People think success is a destination. It is not. Success is a direction. It is not something you arrive at on a Tuesday afternoon after which you can relax forever. It is a way of moving through your days, a way of showing up, a way of treating your time and your talents and your relationships. And because success is a direction and not a destination, the price of success is not a single, dramatic payment. It's not like buying a house where you sign the papers once and you're done. No. The price of success is a toll booth you pass through every single day. Some days the toll is small. Some days it feels enormous. But you cannot travel the road of success without paying, again and again, day after day, year after year. What does that toll look like? It looks like discipline when you don't feel like it. It looks like showing up to work on your goals when the results aren't visible yet. It looks like saying no to things that feel good in the moment because you understand they don't serve where you're going. It looks like reading the book instead of watching another hour of something forgettable. It looks like having the uncomfortable conversation with a business partner, a spouse, a friend, because you value the relationship enough to protect it with honesty instead of protecting your comfort with silence. It looks like getting back up again after a failure, when everyone would understand if you just quit. It looks like taking responsibility when it would be so much easier, so much more socially acceptable to blame the economy, blame your parents, blame your boss, blame your circumstances, blame anyone and anything other than the person in the mirror. That's the toll. And here's the good news, the genuinely good news I want you to leave with tonight. That toll is affordable. It really is. It is not some impossible, superhuman burden reserved for the lucky few. It is small, consistent, daily action. It is ounces, remember, not tons. Anyone in this room can afford to pay ounces. The problem is not that people can't afford the price of success. The problem is that they don't realize they're already paying a price either way, so they choose to skip the toll booth of discipline and unknowingly drive straight into the toll booth of regret, which I promise you charges far, far more. Let's talk about excuses now. I know what some of you are thinking, because I've heard it for years in 1,000 different forms, from 1,000 different people in 1,000 different rooms. You're thinking, Jim, you don't understand my situation. I have kids. I have debt. I have a bad back. I didn't get the opportunities other people got. I started too late. I don't have the connections. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I want to address this directly and with love because I care about you too much to lie to you tonight. Excuses are the most expensive thing you will ever purchase, and they don't even give you anything in return. Think about that. You pay for an excuse with your future, and all you get in exchange is a temporary, hollow comfort, the comfort of not having to try, not having to risk, not having to face the possibility that you might fail. But that comfort doesn't build anything. It doesn't compound. It doesn't grow interest in your favor. It just sits there, and while it sits there, your life sits there with it. I'm not telling you that circumstances don't matter. Of course they matter. Some of you started further back than others. Some of you have real, legitimate burdens that others don't carry. I understand that. But here is what I have watched over and over in my own life and in the lives of thousands of people I've had the privilege of knowing. Circumstances explain your starting point. They do not have to determine your finish line. As I have seen people start with nothing and build everything, I have seen people start with everything and lose it all. The starting line has never been the reliable predictor. The daily choices in between, that's the predictor, every single time. So here is my challenge to you tonight. Stop asking, is this fair? And start asking, what am I willing to do about it? Fairness is a wonderful ideal, but it will not build your business. It will not save your marriage. It will not get you in shape. It will not write your book. Only action does that. Only daily, disciplined, sometimes unglamorous action does that. The compound effect of small things. Let me tell you something about how life actually works, something most people never fully grasp until it's too late, and something I want you to understand tonight while there is still time to use it. Life doesn't care about your intentions. It responds to your patterns. You can intend to get healthy all you want. You can intend to build your business. You can intend to save money, read more, love better, show up more fully for the people who matter to you. Intentions are lovely. Intentions are also, by themselves, completely worthless. What matters, what actually shapes the outcome of your life is what you repeatedly do. Your habits, your patterns, your daily rituals, the ones so small you barely notice you're performing them. Here's the secret nobody tells you clearly enough. Small disciplines repeated daily lead to enormous success. Small indiscretions, repeated daily, lead to catastrophic failure. Thus, it's not the huge, dramatic decisions that make or break a life. It's rarely the one big collapse or the one lucky break. It is instead the compounding weight of 10,000 small choices made quietly when nobody was watching and nothing seemed to be at stake. Think of it like this. If you save a little money consistently over years and let it compound, you end up with wealth that looks, from the outside, almost miraculous. But there was no miracle. There was only patience and consistency doing their quiet work in the dark, month after month, year after year. And if you spend a little more than you earn consistently over years and let that compound too, you end up with a mountain of debt that also looks, from the outside, like some sudden disaster. But it wasn't sudden. It was also patience and consistency, just working in the opposite direction the whole time while you weren't paying attention. The same law governs your health. The same law governs your relationships. The same law governs your knowledge, your skills, your reputation, your character. Everything of value in your life and everything of ruin in your life is the result of compound interest, working either for you or against you every single day, whether you're watching or not. So I ask you, what are you compounding right now? What small thing are you doing today, repeatedly, that will define your tomorrow? Because I promise you, it is defining something. Nothing you do is neutral. It is either compounding toward success or it is compounding toward regret. There is no third option. There is no pause button on compound interest. The difference between reasons and excuses. I want to draw a very important distinction here, one that changed the way I look at every setback in my own life. There is a difference between a fair reason is and an as excusey, and understanding that difference will save you years of wasted potential. A reason explains why something happened. An excuse uses that explanation to avoid responsibility for what happens next. You might have very real reasons for where you are today. A difficult childhood, a financial setback that wasn't your fault, an illness, a betrayal. These are real. I'm not diminishing them. But the moment you take a legitimate reason and use it as a permanent excuse for an action, you have transferred the authorship of your life into someone else's hands. You have said, essentially, because something happened to me, I no longer have to decide what happens next. But my friends, that's not how life works, and deep down, you know it. You are the only one who can decide what happens next, not your past, not your parents, not your circumstances, not the economy, not your boss, not your bad luck, you. Every single day, you stand at a fork in the road, and one path leads toward the price of success, and the other leads toward the price of regret, and no reason, however real, however painful, however unfair, can walk that road for you. Only you can walk it, and you must, every single day, choose again. What regret actually sounds like, I want to take a moment and be very honest with you about what regret actually sounds like, because I think if you hear it clearly enough tonight, you will do everything in your power to avoid ever having to say these words yourself. Regret sounds like, I wish I had started 10 years ago. Regret sounds like, I always meant to tell her how much she meant to me. Regret sounds like, I had the idea first, but I never acted on it, and now someone else built the business I dreamed about. Regret sounds like, I kept telling myself I'd get healthy next month, and next month became next year, and next year became a decade. Regret sounds like, I spent so much time chasing comfort that I never realized I was avoiding the very things that would have made me proud of my life. Regret is quiet. That's what makes it so dangerous. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't send you a warning 6 months in advance. It simply accumulates, silently, in the space between who you could have become and who you settle for being. And one day, often much later than you'd like, often when there is far less time left to fix it than there once was, you turn around and there it is, standing behind you, holding an invoice for every day you postpone the price of discipline. I have sat with people, successful people, wealthy people even, who nonetheless carried a deep sorrow, because somewhere along the way they chose the easy path in the one area of life that mattered most to them. Their family, their health, their integrity, and no amount of success in other areas could fully buy back what they lost. That is the most sobering lesson I can offer you tonight. Why success in one area of life does not automatically pay off the debts you're accumulating in another. You must tend every field, not just the one that's easiest, or the one that pays fastest, or the one that gets you the most applause. What the price of success actually buys you now, let me flip this around, because I don't want to leave you tonight thinking only about what regret costs. I want you to understand vividly what the price of success actually purchases, because it is glorious, my friends, it truly is. When you pay the price of discipline day after day, you are not just building a business or a body or a bank account. You are building here something far more valuable, a self you can trust. You are building the quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing that when life asks something difficult of you, you have a track record of showing up. That confidence cannot be bought with money. It cannot be inherited. It cannot be faked. It can only be earned one disciplined day at a time. When you pay the price of success, you buy options. You buy the freedom to walk away from a job you hate because you built savings instead of spending everything you earned. You buy the ability to help someone you love in a crisis because you built margin into your life instead of living at the edge of your means. You buy respect, not the shallow respect of flattery, but the deep respect of people who watched you do the hard thing when the easy thing was right there, available, tempting, and you chose discipline anyway. You buy a legacy, because here's something I want you to think about carefully. Your children, the young people who watch you, are not learning from your words nearly as much as they are learning from your habits. When you pay the price of discipline, you are not only building your own future, you are teaching silently and powerfully the people who are watching you that this is possible, that the toll booth of daily effort leads somewhere worth going. And that lesson, passed on, might be the greatest inheritance you ever leave behind, greater than any amount of money. Let's talk about time, because time is really the currency underneath everything I've said tonight. Money can be lost and regained. Health, in many cases, can be rebuilt. Relationships, if damaged, can sometimes be repaired. But time spent is spent forever. There is no getting it back, no matter how much success you eventually achieve, no matter how much money you eventually make. This is why the price of regret is so devastating. It's not just that you didn't get the result you wanted. It's that you spent the one truly non-renewable resource you had, your days, your years, on comfort, on delay, on the illusion that there would always be more time later to start. And then one day later arrives, and you discover it isn't as generous with time as you assumed it would be. I want you to think of your life as a field, just like our two farmers. Every single day is a seed. You are always planting something, whether you intend to or not. The question is never whether you're planning. You cannot avoid planning simply by being alive and making choices. The only real question is, Esri, what are you planting? And are you willing to tend it? Some of you sitting here tonight have been planting weeds for years without realizing it. Small excuses, small delays, small comforts chosen over small disciplines. I say this with compassion, not judgment, because I have done the very same thing at different points in my own life. But I also want to tell you, with everything I have it is not too late to change what you're planting. The field doesn't care what you planted yesterday. It only cares what you plant today. Every single sunrise is a new invitation to change the harvest that's coming. Choosing your price on purpose. So let's bring this all together, because I want you to leave this room tonight with something you can actually use, not just something that sounded nice for an evening. Here is the decision in front of you, and it is the same decision that has always been in front of every human being who has ever lived. You will pay a price. That much is not optional. What is optional? Entirely, completely optional, is which price you pay. The price of success asks for small sacrifices now: your comfort, your time, your convenience, your excuses. It asks you to get up a little earlier. It asks you to have the hard conversation instead of avoiding it. It asks you to save instead of spend, to read instead of scroll, to show up instead of hide, to take responsibility instead of assigning blame. It asks for these small, manageable payments, consistently over a long period of time. And in exchange, it offers you a life built on a foundation strong enough to hold real weight. The weight of accomplishment, the weight of self-respect, the weight of a legacy worth leaving. The price of regret asks for nothing right now. That's its great deception. It lets you keep your comfort today, your excuses today, your easy choices today. It never sends a bill in the moment, but it collects eventually. And when it collects, it does not ask politely. It takes your years. It takes your might have beens. It takes the quiet peace that should have belonged to your later years and replaces it with the ache of knowing you had the chance every single day to choose differently, and you didn't. I have paid both prices in my own life at different seasons, and I can tell you without hesitation which one is worth paying. The price of discipline is hard in the moment and easy in the end. The price of regret is easy in the moment and unbearably hard in the end. Choose your hard. That is the whole secret. Choose your hard on purpose with your eyes open, and you will find that the price of success, while never comfortable, is always, always worth it. A word before I close, I want to leave you with this final thought, because I believe it more than almost anything else I've told you tonight. You do not need to change everything about your life tomorrow morning. That kind of dramatic transformation rarely lasts anyway, because it isn't built on the daily discipline we've been discussing. It's built on emotion, and emotion fades. What I am asking of you is much smaller and much more powerful. Choose one thing. One discipline. One toll booth you've been avoiding. One conversation you've been postponing. One habit you know deep down is quietly compounding against you. Pay that one price tomorrow, just tomorrow, and then pay it again the day after, and the day after that. You will not feel like a different person overnight. Success rarely announces itself that dramatically. But months from now and years from now, you will look back and realize that a whole new field has grown row after row from seeds you began planting on an ordinary day that felt, at the time, like nothing special at all. That is how every success story actually begins. Not with a lightning bolt, not with some miraculous stroke of luck, but with an ordinary person on an ordinary day, deciding they were finally willing to pay the price of discipline instead of the price of regret. My friends, life will collect one of these two payments from you. It has already started collecting, whether you've noticed or not. So I'll leave you with the same challenge I try to leave with myself every single morning when my feet hit the floor. Pay now or pay later. Pay in ounces or pay in tons. Pay with discipline or pay with regret. Choose wisely. Choose today. Choose again tomorrow. And let your life be the proof of which price you decided once and for all that you were no longer willing to postpone. Thank you.